the smallest things, great understanding can be found. A grain of salt seems ordinary. A glass of water appears simple. Yet when these two humble elements meet, they reveal lessons about nature, patience, balance, and change. Today, we will explore a few simple salt and water experiments that anyone can try at home, not merely for entertainment, but as a way to observe the hidden wonders that exist all around us. The first experiment is the floating egg. Fill a glass with water and gently place an egg inside. Notice how it sinks to the bottom. Then slowly add salt and stir. As more salt dissolves, the egg begins to rise until it floats. This simple sight teaches us that conditions shape outcomes. The egg remains the same, yet the environment around it changes. In life, too, our surroundings influence our experiences. The second experiment involves growing salt crystals. Dissolve a large amount of salt in warm water and place a string into the solution. Leave it undisturbed for several days. Slowly, tiny crystals begin to appear and grow. This experiment reminds us that many beautiful things require patience. What seems invisible today may become visible tomorrow through time and persistence. Another fascinating experiment is creating layers of water. Mix different amounts of salt into separate glasses of water and add a drop of food coloring to each. Carefully pour them into a single container. You may see colorful layers form because water with more salt is denser. This shows that even when things appear similar, hidden differences exist beneath the surface. You can also explore evaporation. Pour salt water into a shallow dish and place it in a sunny location. After the water disappears, the salt remains behind. What seemed dissolved and lost was only hidden from view. This teaches us that appearances can be temporary, while the essence of something may remain unchanged. Finally, ice tea. Try comparing how quickly ice melts in plain water versus salty water. Observe carefully and notice the differences. Through observation, questions arise, and through questions, understanding grows. The floating egg experiment, SUDI, discover how adding salt to water changes its density, allowing an egg to rise and float, demonstrating how environments influence outcomes. Imagine placing an egg into a glass of plain water and watching it sink straight to the bottom. At first, this may seem ordinary, but a fascinating change begins when salt is slowly added to the water. As each spoonful dissolves, the water becomes denser, creating a stronger upward force. Gradually, the egg starts to rise until it floats near the surface. The egg itself has not changed. Its shape, weight, and nature remain exactly the same. What has changed is the environment surrounding it. This simple experiment offers more than a scientific lesson. It encourages us to observe how conditions influence outcomes. In nature, many things respond to the environment around them. A seed grows differently depending on the soil in which it is planted. A plant flourishes when given sunlight and water. In the same way, People often respond to the circumstances they encounter. As you watch the egg slowly rise, take a moment to appreciate the quiet laws at work. The transformation happens gradually, not instantly. Each grain of salt contributes to the change. The experiment reminds us that small actions can have meaningful effects over time. What appears impossible at first can become possible through steady adjustments. By observing this simple interaction between salt, water, and an egg, we gain a deeper appreciation for the hidden forces that shape the world around us. Every day, growing salt crystals, learn how patience and time transform a simple salt solution into beautiful crystal formations, showing the rewards of persistence. In another simple yet deeply fascinating experiment, salt crystals can be grown from a basic solution of salt and warm water. When salt is stirred into warm water, it slowly disappears, forming an invisible mixture. At this stage, it seems as though the salt is gone, but it is only waiting in a dissolved state. By placing a clean string, stick, or rough surface into the solution and leaving it undisturbed for several days, something remarkable begins to happen. As the water gradually evaporates, the salt particles start to reappear, attaching themselves to surfaces and forming tiny crystal structures. Over time, these crystals grow larger and more visible, often creating beautiful patterns that sparkle under light. This process teaches patience, as nothing visible happens instantly. Yet continuous change is taking place beneath the surface. It also shows that nature works silently and steadily, transforming simple materials into structured forms. The experiment encourages careful observation and respect for slow processes. What seems like an ordinary mixture becomes a source of natural beauty when given time and stillness. Through this experiment, one learns that patience reveals hidden order, and even the simplest substances can form extraordinary structures when allowed to evolve slowly. Creating colorful water layers, observe how different salt concentrations create layers of water, revealing that hidden differences can exist beneath similar appearances. When different amounts of salt are dissolved in separate glasses of water, each glass forms a solution with a different density. If food coloring is added to each one, the differences become even more visible and interesting. For example, one glass may have a strong salt concentration and appear darker in color, while another may have only a small amount of salt and look lighter. When these solutions are carefully poured into a single, tall container, something beautiful and surprising can happen. Instead of mixing instantly, the liquids may form distinct layers, floating one above another. The denser salt water settles at the bottom, while the lighter solution stays on top. This creates a soft, layered effect that looks almost like a rainbow trapped in water. This simple observation reveals an important idea about nature. Not everything mixes immediately, even when it appears similar. Differences in weight, concentration, and density can create hidden structures that are not visible at first glance. The experiment also teaches careful handling and patience, because if poured too quickly the layers will mix, and the effect will disappear. By watching these layers form, we begin to understand how invisible properties, like density, shape the behavior of liquids. It reminds us that beneath simple appearances, complex patterns are always quietly at work in the natural world. Salt water evaporation. Watch water disappear while salt remains behind, illustrating that what seems lost may simply be hidden from sight. In the evaporation experiment, salt water is poured into a shallow dish and left in a sunny or warm place. At first, the solution looks unchanged, as if nothing significant is happening. However, beneath this calm surface, a slow and steady process begins. The heat causes the water to gradually turn into vapor and escape into the air. As the days pass, the level of water decreases little by little, until eventually it disappears completely. What remains behind is the salt that was once dissolved and invisible in the water. This simple transformation reveals an important truth about appearances. When the salt was mixed in water, it seemed to vanish. Yet it was never truly gone. It was only hidden in a different form. The experiment shows how substances can change state, but still retain their essence. It also demonstrates the quiet power of natural processes that work without interruption or attention. Watching evaporation encourages patience and awareness. There is no sudden movement, no dramatic change, only a gradual shift that requires time to observe. In this stillness, we learn that many changes in life happen in the same way, slowly, quietly, and often unnoticed until the final result appears. What once seemed empty is now revealed to hold solid traces of what was there all along. Comparing ice melting rates. Explore how salt affects the melting process of ice, encouraging careful observation and a deeper understanding of natural processes. In this final experiment, we observe how ice behaves differently in plain water compared to salty water. Take 2 glasses filled with equal amounts of water and place an ice cube in each. In the first glass, the ice is in normal water. In the second, salt has been dissolved thoroughly before adding the ice. At first glance, both ice cubes begin to melt, but the speed and pattern of melting are not the same. In plain water, the ice melts at a steady and predictable rate. The surrounding water remains relatively uniform in temperature, allowing the ice to gradually lose its shape. However, in salty water, the process changes noticeably. The salt lowers the freezing point of water and disrupts the balance around the ice cube. As a result, the ice often melts faster and in uneven ways, sometimes breaking apart more quickly than expected. This simple comparison shows how even a small change in composition can significantly alter natural behavior. It reminds us that water is not always the same in every condition. Its properties can shift depending on what is dissolved in it. The experiment encourages careful observation, showing that differences in environment lead to different outcomes. Through this, we learn that even familiar things like ice and water can behave in surprising ways when conditions change.